a spectacular reading week, a spectacular personal week, and a spectacular music week all in one. It doesn't stay as long as it should, and it doesn't come as often as it should. But when it does, it's worth talking about. So let's talk about the week ending October 6th, 2020. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Nikhil with Shelf-Esteem. I'm a composer, now also booktuber. You can find my music in The Wheel of Time Season 2, His Dark Materials Season 3, and the newly released psychological horror film, Dead Whisper. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of a reading roundup is what I like to call it, because it's fun to kind of have this dialogue with you, and I always like to say, leave it in the comments, let me know what happened to you this week, what you read. I always discover great authors from you, and hopefully I can do the same for you. So that's kind of the impetus of this weekly little update here. And if you like this kind of video, please like and subscribe. It always helps the channel out, and I'm going to have some affiliate links down below, which, you can kind of check out some of these books if you feel like purchasing them as well. So without further ado, let's get on to the books. I got a wonderful recommendation from a dear friend of the channel, John from Disquiet and Dragons, and just as he had recommended it, another dear friend of the channel, Cliff from Cliff's Dark Gems, also recommended this book. And you know how it is when you start to hear things multiple times in the span of like a week or a couple days, you kind of know, okay, maybe this is the universe's sign. I should probably put this on my priority list. So that book was The Har by David Sodergren. So I don't know if you've all read this, and leave it in the comments and let me know if you haven't. But it's a wild story. It's the best way I could describe it is there's an old woman who lives on an kind of a small coastal area. And there's only a few kind of small town residents that are left there, and they're all being bought out by this developer who wants to kind of develop over the land. And this woman is stubborn. She doesn't want to let go. And, she feels like she is running out of options because people are just buying up this land and people are leaving. And, it's like, and then there were a few people left and there was less people left. And the population of this place is dwindling. And she feels like she's up against everything. And, that there's no hope until a mysterious fog starts to creep inland. And that's kind of the impetus of the whole story. I don't want to give anything more away, but it is some wild stuff. Like, it's got like supernatural feel. It's got body horror. It's got an analysis of like the rich versus the poor and kind of this classist mentality that we as a society have. The haves and the have-nots. I absolutely adored this book, and I want to read more David Sodergren now. And if you haven't checked him out, I highly recommend you. This is a great place to start, I think, because it has a little bit of everything, and I've heard from both Cliff and John that, some of his other works are a bit more specific to a specific type of niche audience, and so this is a really good accessibility point, I would say. One thing that I felt like was kind of interesting also was the villains were very villainy. And I think if I could have had one more thing that I, would have made this book perfect for me, because, the book is pretty short, it's like a couple hundred pages, would have been to have a little bit more fleshed out understanding of the motivations of these people, besides the fact that they are kind of the villains, the antagonists of this. I always like multi-layered villains, where the motivation may come from something that is not necessarily just due to their actions, but something, kind of maybe due to how they grew up or something. So it would have been nice to get some of that backstory. But I think beyond that, phenomenal. No complaints there. So really, really great. The second book I read 2 complete books this week, which was kind of amazing. Especially given, how busy the week was, which I'm going to talk about later in the video. But the second book I read was What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. Now, this was my first T. Kingfisher novel, and this was a novella, actually. And it's basically about kind of a take on the whole Fall of House of Usher story. It's slightly different than the kind of the Fall of the House of Usher story, the Edgar Allan Poe story. And it's basically about a guy named Alex Easton, who's a soldier who's called by a friend, Madeline Usher, and Roderick, who are, kind of on their deathbeds, right? So she goes to visit them, and she just notices there's like a lot of weird, like there's like a mycologist on the property, kind of studying the mushrooms and fungi and stuff like that there. And all is not what it seems. And like, why do they seem so ill all of a sudden, and why are they kind of declining so rapidly? So very interesting take. I don't want to spoil anything more than that, but I think you could probably surmise based on what I was talking about, like what direction this book could go. Oh man, it is so atmospheric. It's got like some body horror in it. it's just very unique to me. The premise and also the execution. I think it was only 150 pages, so my only gripe is like, oh, I wish it was longer. I wish some of the buildups happened a little bit slower burn. But then again, I'm more of a slower burn kind of guy. I mean, I'm reading The Realm of the Elderlings right now with John from Disco and Dragons, Ellie from Bibbidi Bobbidi Books. So I love that kind of slow burn thing where you really get to know the multi-layered characters over time. 150 pages is just kind of hard to do that. But having said that, that's just a personal choice thing. But having said that, this was a blast to read, and I think this would be an amazing adaptation if somebody was able to do it. I think like it would be fun to even attempt doing something like that, but I expect that it would be a little expensive to do it. Using any practical effects or VFX and things like that in that. But that's a topic for another day. So I just wanted to let you know. So that was a great book. I started also my first Joe Nesbo novel, The Night House, which came out in 2023, about a guy who's accused of killing his friend. Now, he watched his friend get sucked into a telephone, which is pretty odd and very kind of Stephen King-esque. And nobody believes him, of course. So he's trying to solve the mystery of it. And I'm going to leave it there because I don't want... I always like to make sure I'm not spoiling anything for anyone. So I will say, I'm about halfway through this book. And it's good. But I do feel like, again, there's a little bit of lack of character development, I think, in this book. It's very plot-driven, which, again, is a taste preference kind of thing. If you like something that is more plot than characters, I think you'll really enjoy this ride. I think for me, I'm a character first kind of guy, so it's just not necessarily like their motivations are not necessarily gelling with me. I'm not fully invested in the characters. And also, Joe Nesbo has a very stream of consciousness kind of writing style, which, will work for some, won't work for others. It's a new style for me. I've never really read anything quite like that, so it'll take some getting used to for me. But having said that, I'm really enjoying it. I read, half the book in like a day, so that should give you an indication of how much I'm enjoying it. I'm looking forward to seeing how it kind of shakes out. But the next book that I've only read 25 pages of, holy crap, I know I'm going to absolutely adore this book. This starts off like a rocket, and this one is Nick Cutter's The Deep. So I'm going to quickly read the back flap because I really want you to know what this is about, and I think you might enjoy it as well. A strange plague called the Gets is decimating humanity on a global scale. It causes people to forget small things at first, like where they left their keys, then the not-so-small things, like how to drive or the letters of the alphabet. Their bodies forget how to function involuntarily. There is no cure. But far below the surface of the Pacific Ocean, a universal healer, hailed as ambrosia, has been discovered. In order to study this phenomenon, a special research lab has been built 8 miles under the sea surface. When the station goes incommunicado, a brave few descend through the lightless fathoms in hopes of unraveling the mysteries lurking at those crushing depths, and perhaps to encounter an evil blacker than anyone could possibly imagine. Now, we have not explored much of the deep sea, right? We've only seen, I think, like 10% of all the world's waters. So, needless to say, there's a lot left unexplored, and that unknown can be pretty frightening. Then add to it this whole disease that makes people forget how to make their heart beat, and stuff like that. That's horrifying. So really interesting, cuts deep, for lack of a better word. And I'm just loving this. This is my second Nick Cutter book. I had read The Troop last year with my wife. We had done kind of like a listening party of that book. And it was really fun. I really enjoyed that one. And I think I like this one even more. So looking forward to seeing how this shakes out. So it's a kind of a longer reading update here, but let's talk a little bit of what I'm going to read. So gotta finish this one. Going to finish The Night House. Shouldn't be too hard to get through these because they're easy reading after those long, chunky fantasy books. And then I'm going to start My Heart is a Chainsaw. So I don't want to go into this too much because I'd already kind of read the inside flap here, and I'm going to post that in a weekly update here so you could check that out. But My Heart is a Chainsaw, first of all, I love the title. It's going to be my first Stephen Graham Jones book. Never read any from this author. It's a lot of new discoveries this month, so that's kind of nice. But basically, it's about like a slasher and like there's somebody who's a horror fan, so it's kind of like the Scream vibe, like, and it becomes a little bit meta about using your horror knowledge to try to avoid the traps of the slasher. So kind of cool. I'm looking forward to seeing this. Very different to The Deep and any of the other books that I've been reading so far this month. So looking forward to seeing how this shakes out. So that's kind of what I'm going to be reading. Now, this week on the channel was probably the most momentous week on the channel yet. One was I started a Discord channel, and it's already grown to a few members who are active in the community, both on this channel and then also in the Discord, and it's been great having conversations with them. I'm leaving the link below in case you want to join as well. We're a small but growing community, and we'd love to have you. Of course, the more the merrier. And it's great because different voices, different book choices, we all have different experiences, and it's nice to be able to chat about them. That's the best part of this channel for me, is the community that we create together, and like being able to support each other's reading journeys, because reading is a very special and sacred thing, I think, for all of us, or at least a lot of us. And it's like one of our favorite hobbies in life. So being able to connect with other people makes it all the worthwhile. So that happened. The second crazy thing that happened was my adaptation news segment, which got released about a week and a half ago, ended up getting like 3.6K views. It blew up, and a lot of people were saying kindly, like, thank you for doing this video. I don't see too many like this. So I feel like I feel like this channel really touched upon a nerve of something that really means a lot to me, and I'm just so grateful that it means a lot to you all as well, because it's like I put stuff out there and I don't know how it's going to do, but I do it because I love it, and I think you might enjoy it as well. And it means especially much that something that I'm something I'm knowledgeable about, passionate about, and also work in the adaptation space. It's something that I can bring into the conversation here. So the fact that you all really enjoyed it just means the world to me. And there will be more adaptation news to come, because I've already been seeing more articles coming out, and I'm probably going to try to do it every 2 to 3 weeks, because I think there's going to be a lot to talk about. So that was the first thing. The second thing was the channel blew up. It went from 462 subs, went from the last weekly update, to 601 subs, which is incredible, And I always say it's our channel, right? I'm the steward of the channel, but it's our channel. So I always want to know, like, how can I keep making this better? How can I keep the community growing? Because it's our community, right? So I'm just so grateful that you all have decided to join, and, in no small part due to the adaptation news segment, and also another video that I released, which was the top Stephen King's scariest stories, which I'm linking up here. So if you haven't checked that out, it's been a nice primer for a lot of people who are new to Stephen King's works. And Stephen King is so diverse in his catalog. He's written family dramas, he's written alien invasions, he's written coming of age stories. He's done it all, and he's done it all really well. Crime fiction. And so, to focus on the scariest is kind of a fun thing to do for spooky season. And then also, some of his best stuff is his scariest stuff. So it's hard to kind of sift through his massive catalog and know which books would be the ones to choose for that. So I figured, a video on that would be helpful. And that, I think, is sitting at like 1.5K views or something. So really great that both those have resonated with viewers, and it's something I want to keep doing on this channel. So that was that. And then I also watched Salem's Lot when it first came out, the first day that it came out, and the second day I did a comparison video talking about all the differences between Salem's Lot, the movie on HBO Max, and then also the book, and kind of how I felt about it in comparison to that adaptation. So don't want to give anything away on this video, but if you want to check that out, linking it up here as well. And it's always fun to see the adaptations and see how they measure up or how they fall short of expectations based on the book. So that was kind of the other video I released. So let's talk a little bit about this coming week. So I just want to throw in a little sidebar here. The read-along update. Read-along, more of you have been casting your votes for the 2025 read-along, which another video I'm linking up here, so you can check it out in case you haven't checked it out. But I'm trying to decide between 4 different series, and I kind of posted them up there. And I also put a poll on the community post, which I'm also linking down there. So you'll find it at the top of my community post. So if you can't find it, you'll find it there. Right now, Malazan and Book of the Fallen is in the lead, but there's still time. I'm going to give it until October 31st. You have plenty of time to cast your vote if you haven't done so already, and see which book series you would want to be the channel read-along series of next year. So we do one a month or so, and I'll kind of try to figure out the schedule and book some special guests for that. So that was the first thing. The second thing is I want to do a couple of videos this week. One, I haven't seen too much on BookTube, but I want to do like a top 10 perfectly paced books. I thought that would be kind of cool. cross different genres. Just like, what are the books where, a lot of books, like, they'll have a roaring start, a dragging middle, and a roaring finish. And that can be great, but sometimes that middle can put people off, right? Some of my favorite books are like that because I don't mind the middle being a little bit draggy, but there are some books that I've read that have been actually perfectly paced where I felt like all the way through, not a dull moment, not a wasted page. So I kind of wanted to analyze my top 10 of those, and I figured that would be kind of helpful for you if you want something that really feels like a risk-free dive into a new world. So that's the first video. The second video is kind of an interesting one too. A lot of horror, I read a lot of fantasy as well, so, we love our long-running series, but a lot of horror books don't have a sequel. So, you're reading a lot of standalones, and just from going on this standalone reading journey this month alone, I'm already feeling like, oh, man, I wish this book had a sequel. Oh, I wish this was explored a little bit more. So I'm going to go over my top 5 horror books that I wish had a sequel. So that's going to be the next video, and I would love to know in the comments if you also think of any, horror-related ideas for this month that you'd want to see on the channel. Because again, it's our channel, it's yours as much as mine. Please let me know what you'd want to see me talk about. I'm happy to do that, and I want it to be kind of an open canvas for you all as well. So that was kind of this coming week. Now, in my personal life, it has been crazy because yesterday, and this is one reason why my body's aching quite a bit today, is I ran a half marathon, 13.1 miles yesterday. It was my first half marathon ever. I'd never done anything like that, and I've actually hated running all my life. And on a whim, a friend of mine was telling me, he's a composer as well, Robert Mai, and he said, I'm going to run this half marathon. And I said on a whim, all right, I'll join you. And, through this experience, it's been really amazing because, and this is something actually that indirectly applies to reading actually too, is kind of what I got thinking about, is I've grown to love running. And I was like, wait, I thought I hated running all my life. Why would I grow to love running? Why would I want to do a half marathon? And it made me think about, like, there's particular moments in our lives, right, when we're younger, when we dismiss something like, oh, that's not for me. Oh, I hate that or something. And I think the same could be true for books, right, or authors. Like, we read something when we're younger, doesn't resonate, and we put it away. In fact, I felt similarly to my Stephen King reads when I'd read, I think I'd read a bit of It. When I was like 14. I loved Pet Sematary, but it didn't quite gel with me, and also felt like a little bit too much for me at the time. Put it away. Imagine if I didn't pick that up. I wouldn't have a whole shelf dedicated to the man, for starters. So, it just got me thinking, like, at what age we start putting labels on things, like I like this, I don't like that, and how we dismiss things that we may actually grow to love. So it was just a very interesting learning experience through that. And now my body hurts like hell, but it was worth it. So that was one of the reasons why this weekly reading roundup is going up on Monday instead of Sunday. So that was a really fun personal life story. And then the second thing was on the music front. The music front was gangbusters busy. So I really don't know how I packed all this into the last week or so, but sometimes sleep is for the weak, right? So I ended up doing, I mentioned earlier on this channel, like on another reading roundup, that I had worked on ad campaign for AARP for the Diwali Indian Festival of Lights. So I'd done this Indian track and stuff, and there was a whole choreographed dance routine. So I stopped by on set to see the dance routine unfolding and to film some kind of professional BTS footage talking about my process for scoring that. And I'm very excited for you all to see. I'll definitely link it like below once that is released and everything in Diwali. So that was the first thing that I did. The second thing was I actually wrote a custom song for someone who was running for the Fremont City Council. He wanted a campaign theme song. And that was kind of interesting. So it was kind of a modern pop song. And so I was writing that and then recording it and producing it and then recording a vocalist. And today I'm going to be heading into the mix session. So very quick, like in the span of a week, So that was pretty busy. And then I've written about like 15 minutes of music for a French TV show, which I'll keep you all posted about. It's kind of like a psychological thriller. So that's been really fun as well. So a lot of music writing this week, and a lot of kind of trying to juggle everything else in the process. But, that's it for me. Let me know, how your week was. Like, did you guys read anything that was fascinating to you? Did you read anything you hated? Anything I should avoid, honestly? Because there's so many books on our TBR. So knowing kind of a heads up on what to avoid ahead of time would also be helpful as well. But anything cool happened to you that you feel willing to share also? It's always fun to have that dialogue in the conversation in the comment section and also on Discord. And, I always say, like, I don't like to say just like, oh, hey, thanks for watching. I like to actually ask questions back and create a dialogue if you're willing, because I think that's a fun part about this community, and I think it's why we joined the community to some extent. So leave it in the comments. Please like and subscribe. Again, it helps the channel so much, like more than I can possibly mention to you, as is evidenced by this last week. So, you know, if you feel compelled to, only if you feel compelled to, please like and subscribe. And I'm Nick Hill with Shelf-Esteem. Please be good to yourselves. Please be good to each other. Have a wonderful week, y'all, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.